You know, the 3DS was and still is a pretty cool console. I know why you're here. Hey, you know, you might be upset about it, but Nintendo's a weird company, okay? I'm being really euphemistic. Anyways, lately, I've been skimming through a lot of videos, much like the one you're watching right now, and there are a lot of solid recommendations out already, so I'd just like to add a few games that I've noticed haven't really been mentioned much at all. It's not a comprehensive list, but just another one to go along with the others. So if you haven't seen any of those and you're itching to buy more games from the 3DS eShop, I'll just put them in a little card on the side here, and you can go watch those. They're good videos. I'm also going to be recommending a few Japanese games. Not very many, but just a few if you happen to have a Japanese 3DS already or you're planning on buying one. There's a few cool exclusives on there, and I'll also get into a super cool alternative method of playing Japanese 3DS games, but that's for later. But yeah, let's get into it. I'm not going to waste any more time here. Hey, it's a Nintendo game, developed by Mitchell, the people behind the Magnetica and Puzzle games, and the victims of being ripped off by Zuma is Tokyo Crash Mobs. This game plays very similarly to those, but instead of throwing marbles or any other round shape you could think of, we're throwing people at people. That's also the one major drawback of this game, since it's just a little hard to quickly aim long skinny figures at one another compared to just a compact round shape, but it's still a lot of fun. There's also some boss stages where you aim with the 3DS motion controls, which spices things up a little bit. And the game's also just incredibly weird. I mean, just look at these cutscenes. What? The game also uses some really weird words too, like scenester? Who uses that word? Ever? And in addition to there being plenty of replay value in the actual game itself, you do also unlock a mode where you can travel through a maze of the game's cutscenes, which is a lot more fun than you might think. Here's another Nintendo game. Do you remember this one? It's a game where you shoot tanks with little commanders inside, and there's not a whole lot more to it than that. It's definitely a game that excels primarily in its 6-person multiplayer and not really so much in the single player department. That one's a little weak, but stick with multiplayer and I guarantee you will have a pretty good time. I wish I could say a little bit more about this game, but to be honest, I never really played it that much. I just remember having a lot of fun with it. So, instant loss of credibility right there. And for the last Nintendo game I'll be covering, it's Quetzal's Corridors. This one's the sequel to the very beloved Through Space on the Wii, with a couple of tweaks here and there. Most notably are the new Mesoamerican cosmetics, but I think the gameplay is overall just better suited for the 3DS. The idea of the game is to fit your oddly shaped block through as many holes in the wall as you can, and honestly, I used to hate this game as a kid, but coming back to it now, it's actually really enjoyable, and I definitely dig the challenge, so yeah, not recommended for children. Moving on to some indie games, we've got Go Go Cocopolo. This one's a uniquely self-described chase 'em up, and it's just fantastic. Very SNK era graphics and challenging gameplay, and there's just a unique charm to the game overall. And it's an easy bang for your buck since it really lends itself well to on-the-go gaming. I could easily gush about this one for a while, but I think if you want a game that puts your skills to the test, this should just be at the top of your list. It's only $6. Go for it. I don't think I've ever heard a single person say anything bad about this game, but then again, I don't really ever hear people talk about this game at all, so just take my word for it. It's really good. Kobuga is a shoot-'em-up by the creator of Radiant Silvergun and Ikaruga. Yes, we are getting into boomer territory now. It's a fairly unique spin on the twin-stick shooter concept, since you're using your shoulder buttons to aim instead of a second stick, and I think that slows down the pacing quite a bit, but it's still a very mondo-tubular and intense game, and definitely for the more hardcore crowd. Plus, the aesthetics and the music are just godlike. As the most expensive game I'll be recommending in this video, it's very deserving of your cash if you know what you're getting into. This isn't your type of game, don't go for it. To round off this trilogy of amazing games I'm surprised not many people know about is God of Protectors, the second game in the Protect Me Knight series by Yuzo Koshiro and his company, Ancient. This is a pretty fun tower defense game with some really fun mechanics, a great tongue-in-cheek sense of humor, and just a lot of content. It's a huge bang for your buck, and it's just really addicting to play. There is also a third entry for the Switch that's been in Japan for a while, and funnily enough, it just got an announcement for a Western release as I am in the process of making this video, so I really recommend checking both of them out. There was also an NES spin-off given away to celebrate the launch of the game. However, I don't believe you can officially get it on your 3DS anymore, but the ROM is still on their website, so you can play it on your NES game compatible machine of your choice. This one's got some very obvious inspirations, but do not be alarmed, the grass-cutting action genre started here. Kusakari is a simple game, but the fun really comes from trying to cut all the grass as quickly as possible. Young Shibakari has quite slippery motion, so you gotta develop a sense of skill with playing this game, and it's neat. Psycho Pigs is a modern-day iteration of Jaleco's arcade classic, Buta-san, a sorta hot potato game in spirit if you catch my drift. It's great for short little bursts, and the game's visuals and UI really make me think of Japanese convenience stores for whatever reason, but that aside, I have a lot of fun with this game. While most of the games on this list are exclusive to the 3DS eShop, this one was originally an Android game. Developed by Arc System Works and Vinyl Lab, we got a very Rhythm Heaven inspired game. There really aren't enough of those in the world. It might be a little boring at first, but it gets more entertaining as you unlock more characters and modes. I think this version is superior to the Android one since, well, that one's probably not gonna run very well on your modern day Galaxy phone. And button controls, in my opinion, are far better for games like this. This one might be delisted from the eShop, but in any case, this is a charming and oh so heartwarming simulation game where you restore a village's ecosystem using the power of magical Mononoke. It's cute and pretty straightforward, and I like the usage of RPG and shoot 'em up design choices. This one's a set of 2 games actually, and they're nice little puzzle platformers. You control your little ninja fella and rid the villages of evil Mononoke, saving villagers meanwhile. I like the aesthetics, they're very comfy, and the games are also available on Steam if you'd rather get it for your handy dandy Steam Deck. This one was an uncalled for remake of a somewhat left field steampunk themed shoot 'em up for the Genesis, with remastered graphics and sounds too. It's not my favorite, but I do think it's fun, all things considered. Mad Dog McCree is an old-school Laserdisc-based light-gun game that's been ported to every other console under the sun. If you want a decent port of it for the 3DS before it's gone, here's your chance. Now, the next 3 parts are a few games that were recently recommended to me by a good friend, so these recommendations aren't entirely mine, but I trust my friend, and if you don't like them, just go ahead and blame him. It's his fault. Firstly, we have a trilogy of visual novels called the Parascientific Escape series. They seem pretty cool from what I've played. Nice writing and nice production, and what more could you really ask for from a quality VN, eh? This one's an RPG that cleverly combines the standard RPG battle affair with some good old cooking in the kitchen. You can get pretty creative with the recipes you make and bring your fine establishment off the ground and into the riches. Definitely a game that plays better than it looks, but hey, substance over style, baby. Am I right? Another game that's not a looker, but it's Cube Tactics, a strategy game with a neat concept based around, well, cubes. Build up your empire and destroy your opponent's core, or something like that. I don't know. It's fun. It's cheap. Buy it. G-Style made a few little bite-sized games for the 3DS and DSi, so check those out if those sound interesting, but these two are my personal favorites on the 3DS. Alien on the Run's got style and some grace, and this alien guy is pretty funky. Chain Blaster is a simple shooter that's all about keeping your chain going, and it's just a nice little game. The Air Race games feel like they could have been budget titles on a 6th-gen console, and I say that more as a compliment really, because these games are fun. I always love games that just let you zoom at radical speeds and immediately die of explosions upon your failure. It's good stuff. It's more ninja goodness. This game's got a fun style, and it's all about running, slashing enemies, and throwing ninja stars into the background. This one's another game I only recently learned of, so I haven't played it a ton, but I dig it so far. If you like Shinobi or Ninja Gaiden games, I think you'll get a kick out of this one too. Nano Assault EX is an enhanced version of the early 3DS retail game. Like every other game by Shinen, this one's got really polished visuals and it just looked great. And it's currently on sale for $2 right now as of making this video, so I'd suggest lumping it in with all of your other great purchases, especially if you are a fan of games like Geometry Wars. Finally, moving on to the Japanese games, we have Shin Hyustone, aka New Kersplush, which is the improved sequel to the game Kersplush. Both of these games are fun, bite-sized arcade games about tossing items into a well and dodging stuff to get to the bottom in one piece. If you've got only a non-Japanese 3DS, then the original Kersplush is still a pretty neat gem, only $3. The developers of this game did make a handful of other titles for the 3DS, so check them out if you like. Just don't play their Switch games. You might have seen this one before. I don't know why you play this. This one's another simple yet challenging type. If you've played Autorunners before, you should have an idea of what you can expect here. Jump over enemies, grab items, and make it to the goal in one piece. It's very challenging, but I think you'll like it. Now, unfortunately, I think this one was also delisted, but in this game, you traverse the hellish nightmare of Shinjuku Station, reimagined as a dungeon. I get the sense that this one was made by a single person, but the passion and ingenuity really shine through that budget feel. This is a neat one by the creator of Puyo Puyo, Masamitsu Niitani. But it plays more like his later game for the Neo Geo, Pochinya. Similar to that last game I mentioned, the main concept is that you can stack up as many pieces as you want, and then drop a trigger that clears pieces of a certain color when you please, and just build chains around that. I'm no better at this than I am at Puyo, which is to say I'm garbage. Another game by the creators of the aforementioned Ninja Battle Heroes. We have a game where you destroy mice. If you have your hang-ups towards these small rodents, you'll probably like flinging this funky cat into them. Now, let's talk about those alternative methods I mentioned before about playing Japanese 3DS games. If you do have the patience, I would highly recommend taking the time to put CFW on your 3DS. This won't result in your 3DS being broken, so long as you don't go out of your way to damage it. And there are plenty of other benefits to doing this as well, such as being able to back up saves for your 3DS games, since in the event of your 3DS going kaput somehow, you can just back them up to another 3DS, and it's very convenient just like that. Now, of course, the legal concern is that playing games like this, or putting them on your 3DS like this, does count as piracy. However, and I won't mince words here, Nintendo is also making no attempt to make these games available to purchase in any other way on the 3DS after next March. And if you can't pay for it, there's nothing to really steal in the first place, which puts it in a bit of a legal gray area. So at the very least, rest assured that Nintendo ninjas will not storm your house and sue you for installing any of these games on your 3DS. Bit of a tonal shift, but I just wanted to make people aware that this is another option and that you aren't really in the wrong for deciding to get games through this method. And via this method, none of these games are truly lost either, since people have preserved them already. Alright, And there you have it. Those are my additional recommendations for games you should be getting for your super cool Nintendo 3DS. If you guys have any other games you think are just as forgotten, shout them down below in the comments, and I may also compile a list of those games into a single pinned comment. Other than that, I'd like to thank everyone for watching this video. Your time means a lot to me, and I think you deserve to have some fun gaming experiences. One last thing I'd like to mention is that I now have a Ko-fi page, since I've had a couple questions in the past about where people might be able to donate to me, and now you can, right there. I'll put a link to it in the description, and it will also be in the About section of my channel page. Actually, it already is, excuse me. Any and all donations go directly to me, being able to make more videos, since I've been doing this stuff for a while now, and I enjoy it, so hey, why not get a little more money doing something you love, right? Anyhow, that's all. I wish you all the best, and I'm gonna go play some more Tokyo Crash mobs because I just need to see more of, this. Yeah.